Hey, party people, am I back? I think I'm back now. I think I'm back. Let's see. So, whatever Facebook is doing, it's not allowing me to be great. It doesn't want me to be great, but that's okay. Whatever. We're going to be great in spite of. Now, if you're noticing back there, I have some things like this has become not only the spot where I come to share life and love with you people, it's also become the spot where I do therapy because now I'm a teletherapist and I do therapy with my clients from the comforts of my own home. And so one of the things when you walk into a therapy office, what tends to happen is that they have their credentials on the wall. My credentials have not been able to be on the wall at the spot that I'm at because I share a spot. So I thought, well, let me throw these bad boys up there. So if you see that, yes, I do look rather official with that, but I've been official with or without. But anyway, let's get to why I'm here. Why I'm here. So I know we're all in this space of, what COVID-19 has done for us. Let me say hey to some of y'all. If you're coming in, if you're still here, say hi to me. Say hi. I like to say hi and speak to the people. But the thing about, hey, Mercy, the thing that I know about this thing, this pandemic that we're in, yes, Dana, I'm back. I had a problem with trying to do the new Facebook lives on my computer doesn't work because it always switches my camera to the rear camera and we're not doing real camera. But anyway, so I've been thinking a lot about this COVID-19 because as I go into every session that I go into, every therapy session that I go into with the client, the very first question that I ask is, hey, how are you doing in light of, this pandemic and what we're dealing with and the adjustments? Hey, Natasha. The adjustments that people are having to make. And like, when you think about it, this is probably one of the few moments in our lifetime where worldwide we're dealing with a lot of the same issue. Hey, Erica. Worldwide, we're dealing with the same issue. And so I titled this, We Won't Emerge from This the Same. We won't emerge from this the same. Hey, Angie, I love that y'all speaking today. I love it. I love it. I love it. I realized I hadn't gone live in a really long time, so I want to come in and share some thoughts. But the truth of the matter is that regardless of what happens between now and when they open the doors, right? When they open the doors, when we're free to come out and go back to life before, we're going to have BC and AC. Life after this is going to be different. Life after this is going to be different. And the reason that I know is because we're in this period of what feels like a standstill to some and what feels like a rush to others, right? But we're in this space. And I've seen different posts and people saying things like, if you don't emerge from this with, your entrepreneurial goals together, if you don't emerge with this, then you wasted your time. No. That's not what this is about. This is a moment of reset. This is a moment of reset. And what's going to happen, or what's been happening, or what I've seen happen with several of my clients, several people that I've just been reaching out to behind the scenes. I touch base with people all the time. When I put that post, hey, how you doing? This is a mental health check-in. I really want to know how people are doing. I really want to know how people are doing because there are folks who are looking like they're okay in the front line who are really struggling in the background. They're really struggling in the background. And part of that, hey, Reneka Boyd, hey, girl, hey. Part of that is that we're in this unprecedented time, right? Where there are some people who are, for the first time in their lives, they've had to stop. They've had to stop. And I saw a post and I shared it by Awesomely Loving. I'm wearing clothes, full on clothes, but I'm not wearing everything. Anyway, I shared this post yesterday, and it was so poignant because it really went to what conversations I had, and actually a recent therapy session that I had with a client. And so in this Awesomely Lovey, her name is Lovey Ajaji, something like that. She's Nigerian, but she was speaking about having a therapy session with her therapist and saying that she was not missing any other therapy sessions during this time. She is not going to miss any sessions during this time. And so her therapist asked her how she was doing, and she said, I'm keeping busy and doing thousands of things. I'm keeping busy and I'm doing thousands of things, right? How many of you are keeping busy during this time? You're keeping busy. You're doing thousands of things. You're not allowing yourself to really slow down because you want to take full advantage of this. Who's my super productive during this time? I'm going to make it do what it do. I'm going to run harder, faster, longer, stronger than I did before. Who are those people? Who are those? So as she's saying this to her therapist says, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? See, that's a therapy question. For those of you who don't understand the process of therapy, basically what you have is an outside person who's asking you questions about the things that you have normalized or you've allowed to be that thing that has always been like, yo, that's just what I do. Like, I'm going to keep busy. So I'm reading it over here. She said, her response after her therapist asked her, why do you think that is? Her response was, I'm not letting myself be too still. Rabbit holes are real. I'm not letting myself be too still. Rabbit holes are real. Rabbit holes are real. And what I'm finding is during this time, there are a lot of people who are getting stuck in the rabbit hole and getting stuck in the weeds of emotions and emotional traps and booby traps that they thought that they had covered up. They have been very, very skillful at avoiding the minefields in their mind, the issues that they have buried, right? But now that we're in this place where we've had to pause. We really had to step back and pause and slow down unintentionally, because no one saw this coming. We didn't see this coming. If you had told me 3 months ago that the whole government was going to shut everything down and we was going to all be stuck in our houses, I'd have been like, ooh, sign me up for that. Because quite frankly, I think I am quarantining quite fine. I don't really people as much as I thought I'd want to people. I am cool. I don't think I've been out of my house in a week and a half. I opened the garage today and I was like, I forgot what my car looked like. Like, my car's like chilling in the garage. So I'm built for this. But if you had told me that this was coming, if you had given me the opportunity to do it, I wouldn't have even known how to do it. Most of us wouldn't have known how to set ourselves up in this way where we have an 8-week, 12-week. We don't know how long this thing is going to last, right? We wouldn't have intentionally done this, right? So for a lot of us, as we get to this unintentional, unplanned halt, some of you aren't prepared for it. Some of you aren't prepared for what your life looks like on pause. Some of you aren't prepared for what it looks like when you're not constantly and consistently going and doing 1,000 things at a time, right? Some of you have gone into hyper mode and you're driving your families crazy because you're so used to hyper mode, because you know when you stop, you're going to have to deal with those things that you haven't been dealing with, right? So going back to her therapist says, when she says, I'm not letting myself be too still because rabbit holes are real. Rabbit holes are real. She said, why do you think that? What do you think is behind that? What is the fear? She said, well, I know in times of crisis, people either sink or swim. I don't want to sink. If those are our two options, sink or swim during this time, then yeah, you're going to have the people who are in their efforts to be avoidant of having to deal with the them and the thus and the it, right? Will go into this perpetual cycle of doing. Even when there's not a lot to be done. There's some of you who are probably cleaning your house from the hither to the thither. You are creating projects and giving people things to do, and because it keeps you going. It keeps you going because you've developed a sink or swim mentality. And this is the question that her therapist asked her. Do you have to sink or swim? What if you just float? What if you just float? Who do you become in the floating, right? Because you don't have to, in the swimming, a lot of you have relegated yourself to the same patterns and processes and defense mechanisms that have kept you avoiding yourself and avoiding your situations and it's all about avoidance, right? When you look at it as sink or swim, with sinking sounds very, it sounds scary, right? It sounds scary. So we're going to do what we have to do to avoid that. But then if we explore the middle, right? Because this is not all or nothing. If we explore the middle, right, Dana? Fight or flight, fight or flight. If we explore the middle is where we float. What does floating look like for you in this season? What does floating look like for you during this time where you might have to resist the urge of getting hyper busy? What does it look like for you to just be, to be with yourself, to be with your feelings? And I know that it's not the easiest of places to be. It's not the easiest of places to be. If you've been around me for a while, you know that I have a theory that if you don't sit down, you will get sat down. It feels like all of Earth has been sat down right now. But if you don't sit down, you will get sat down. We've been sat down. And the goal is not to emerge from this the same. For those of you who have the issues that are welling up, that are making you want to get to a place where you're swimming, right? You're swimming constantly. For those of you who are in that space, recognize that if you stay there, you will get what you've always gotten. Recognize it if you stay there. If you don't learn to float. Now, for those of you who've been around, like I say that sometimes because I don't know how many of you have heard these stories, but I've almost drowned several times. The last time was in I was in the Caribbean Sea, or the Caribbean Sea. I was in the Caribbean Sea, and I got in this level of confidence and thought that I was cool with what I was doing. And what happened was I floated out. I floated out to a spot, right? I was walking, and then the bottom let out. So I wasn't floating, I was drifting. And I was walking. You know how you just walking, minding your own business, and the next thing you know, there's no more bottom? Yeah, so that happened. And as I was sitting in that space, like literally like panicking because I didn't understand what floating meant. What floating looks like. What floating looks like is, in order to really float and do that well, you have to be willing to give up control. That's what floating looks like. Floating feels like you can't control that situation, so you let go and you be. If I had let go and just been, I'd have been chill. But what had happened instead was I started panicking. And I started trying to fight it. And in that, you know, my friend, my very dear friend, right? My very dear friend, she looked at me. She saw this look of terror in my face. And she thought, if I just go over and I grab Rhonda, I'm just going to go, I'm going to pull her in. She said, I'm going to pull her in. So this is a lesson right here. I want you guys to pay attention. I'm just going to pull her back in to where her feet can touch the ground, where she can get back on solid ground. What do you think happened when she grabbed me to pull me back in? And I'm panicking about drowning. All right. We were both going under. And it was not a pretty sight. So she was finally able to get me back over to where she needed to. And there's a lesson in that as well, that some of you, like I've noticed, and this is no shade to anybody. The people who are doing, there are people who are doing mental health checks with other folks. Recognize that sometimes when you mental health check with other people, you might find them in a place where you're not equipped to help handle them. So with that, I say, please, please, please. I posted on my page, like, yo, if you're a therapist and you're taking new clients, list your information here. Because I recognize I'm not the end all be all for everybody. But if you find yourself in that place, or you find yourself in that space of wanting to support somebody else, but you're going in to save them and they're about to take you under with them, because maybe you're not equipped in that way and you don't realize just how much they are resisting the process, or how dangerous it really is, make sure you find somebody, or you find resources to deal with this on your own, because it's not on your own, please, not on your own. Get a professional, y'all. Find somebody. So I've been doing therapy. I've been back at therapy probably the last 6 months as a therapist, right? 6 months as a therapist. And what I found is the most valuable thing that I bring for people is perspective and questions. I just ask questions. I ask questions and allow them to have perspectives and speak on things that they never would have thought of. And during this time of sink, swim, or float, you can only really get to that spot when you are comfortable floating. So get comfortable floating, y'all, because at the end of this, we are going to be different as a nation, as a country, as a people, as a earth. The earth is breathing different. Animals are showing up in places they didn't before. Yo, I saw deer in the street in Gary. Did anybody see that? In Gary, Indiana, I saw a picture of deer in the street. We are different. We will be different. The question is, what are you going to do with the time now? So when you emerge, you're the version of yourself that's most beneficial to you. Because you can keep swimming. You can keep swimming upstream. Or you can learn how to float. So with that being said, that is all. If those of you who are looking or are interested in therapeutic coaching or any of that, hit me up in my inbox. If it's not with me, I can help you, direct you to other people. Because I recognize we're in a space right now where we're going to hit a crisis, a mental health crisis in this country. We're going to hit a mental health crisis, because people are going to have to deal with themselves. And I said before, if you don't deal with your feelings will deal with you. If you don't deal with your feelings will deal with you. Decide which you want to be dealt with, how you want to be dealt with, and be proactive. So during this time, it's not like everybody has free time or they have things like that, but really get to know yourself. Because you're going to emerge different. You're going to be different either way. I don't care who you are. This experience is going to change you. So let it change you for the better. All right. So Heaven says, wow, Rhonda, I just made a live last night that was so similar to this. I'm going to tag you in. Please do. I want to see it. Heaven, you are such a wise young woman. Like, you are wiser than your years. I just want you to know that. I've been peeping you, child. I've been peeping you. You are wise. Very, very wise. Let's see. Mercy says, at the beginning of this, I made a huge list of all that I was going to get done during this time. It wasn't happening, so I reframed and saw that this is another chance at a lesson in letting go. Yes, that I still haven't fully embodied. I know it, but I don't live it. I'm picturing it as my time of transformation in my cocoon. Exactly. So I love when you said it wasn't happening, so I reframed it. Reframe it. You don't have to be about the checklist. This is not a time of checklist. This is a time of heart checks. This is a time of heart checks. Check your heart. What are those spaces, those things that if you're sitting with yourself and you have this urge to get up and do, really ask yourself, what is that about? What are you avoiding? Because it really is avoidance. What are you avoiding? And what are you willing to contend with? And for those of you who, because one day, once this thing breaks open, right, we're going to go back to work. Recognize employers, those of you who supervise people, your folks are coming back to you and they will be traumatized. It won't look like trauma. You won't say, well, nobody held you hostage, then this didn't happen. But no, this is as an organism, COVID-19 is a trauma. It's a trauma. And so what I want to encourage those of you to really protect your mental health. We cannot get away from news. We need to have real, reliable information. Do not run the news channels 24 hours a day. Y'all, do not. Allow yourself to take a break from that. Do things that feed you. If you need to take a walk every day, take a walk every day. Be alone with yourself. Spend some time and energy on something that's not feeding into that fear that steadily traumatizes you. Watch how your children are responding to this. Watch how your children, and by children I mean the old ones too. I have grown children, and I gotta check. I gotta check in with them as well. Check in with yourselves. Check in with each other, because during this time, Um, all the things that look like the things are probably not the things. Just know that. All the things that look like the things are probably not the things. They're probably the other things that you think they are the things. So I say that to say, check in with somebody. Check in with somebody. Talk to the people. Find somebody you can talk to. And listen, if it's not me, I would gladly help to connect you with somebody who can help you, during this time. Again, this is not a commercial for me as a therapist. This is a commercial for therapy and therapeutic coaching to get you through situations and circumstances. And you don't have to suffer in silence. And you don't have to do it alone. And sometimes the only way that you can learn how to float is when you learn how to let go. And what do you need to let go of? And sometimes you need help figuring out what to let go. So with that being said, hit me up. I think I have my thing. I have my my link on for therapeutic coaching, and I changed some things with it. If you want to get on my calendar, hit me up, hit my inbox, drop me an email at rhonda@Gipson-Willis.com. But please, please, please don't suffer in silence. Please, please, please don't. Use this time to develop and do the work on you that you might not ever get this window of opportunity again. That's a fact. We may not ever get a time where the whole world stops. The whole world stops for 3 months. You won't get this again. So take full advantage. And if you're not sure how, hit me up. All right, y'all. Have a very lovely day. And get to floating. All right, y'all. Bye.